not it wait. I fight for my freedom. Can never give in. I come strong way from creation, man. I'm trying to see my land. I defend, I'm fighting for justice, Lord. I fight for them children, but some are wicked and they cook them trying to enslave another man. Savage and corrupt them want to live the kind we go. Young up to they come and try to take over me yard. I see them scatter, brutalize and kill the children, man. But I know we did not eat great, can get we did not eat great. In this year Gideon time, and he say we did not eat great, can get we did not eat great. We are marching on. I rise from the depths of the belly of the beast. I defy your graveyard. I defend the right and I stand for the truth. I will get my reward now. No brother come in a funny smile and take you for that trick, I man. Come with a load of goodies, tryna tickle me fancy boy. Solid rock, no Babylon can never do conquer we. Devilish Babylon, I can send them to them grave. Cause I'm a roots man, fighting for freedom. Young in a Babylon, said I'm a Congo natty trade. I fight for my freedom. Ain't a Babylon. Lord, yeah. I jambo. And me say, Lord Almighty, no way now. So rise up, my youth men, rise. Free up on no mind and filter right from the wrong. Come on, my youth men, come. Free up on ourselves, John, we got things to do. The battle could be tough, but them can hold we down for long. The road is getting rough, I know we got to come on strong. Soldiers on the front and we be genuine and astray. The longer be the war, we know the sweeter victory. Never weary, not it great, can get weary, not it great. In peace, ya Gideon time. I me say weary, not it great, can get weary, not it great. We are marching on. A Jambo, we are marching on. See ya. I just don't face a praise man a soldier Lord. In I now, Andre Gaga get young to fall. Now hear me when I tell ya right now. I'm coming right way from creation, man. I trod mama earth. I defend, I'm fighting for justice, Lord. I fight for the children. I saw my wicked and they cook, they try to cripple Jajaland. Savage and corrupt, they want to live, they can we go. Young up through, they come and try to take over we yard. I see them scatter, brutalize and kill the children, man. I'm a roots man, fighting for freedom. Young in a Babylon, said I'm a Congo natty dread. I fight for my freedom. La no, I can never give in, no, no, no. Hey, Andre Gaga to fall. See ya. Your roots, men fighting for freedom. Young in a Babylon, said I'm a Congo natty dread. I fight for my freedom. Ya never give in. Man a roots, men fighting for freedom. Young in a Babylon, said I'm a Congo natty dread. I fight for my freedom. I can never give in.
closer to you. When I'm out for glory, I can't care for anyone, and that includes you. This is an honest truth, without a doubt. The heart that I have to give is tattered and broken.
continue surfing, please call now and upgrade your package.
You know, we joke a lot, but the sad truth is you could hear this message very soon. Once again, your freedom is at risk. Big internet ISPs and the government are trying to take away more of your rights than usual. But you can do something about it.
That's right. It's super easy to do. Both of us went to battleforthenet.com today, and we made our voices heard. Battleforthenet.com has everything you need to know about the net neutrality movement, and it has everything.
We're sorry, your internet provider has deemed this content unsuitable for viewing in your area.
Go to battleforthenet.com.
Please make your voice heard.
Mass UFO sighting.
Now, this creature is said to prowl the swamps.
Everything is a lie.
Becomes more transparent and then finally disappears.
They're a lot closer than we've been thinking. And we are live. Ryan, are we live? Can you hear me?
Good evening.
We're back. We said we wouldn't stay gone forever. And alas, here we are. So, it is Friday night. It is midnight. And you know what that means. What does that mean, Ryan?
Tonight it means we're gonna get twisted.
Ooh, twisted. I like the sound of that.
We're gonna ask you to think of some things in a little different manner than normal.
Yeah, now settle down. We're not going to ask you to think too hard. Just to open your mind.
At least we're gonna leave you thinking like, what?
Yeah.
Is everything a lie?
Everything is a lie. Every time I hear that intro, man, I get goosebumps. But let me say real quick, I am Dale, and I have been missing you guys, and without a doubt, you've been missing me. And of course, Ryan.
Hello, everyone.
And man, I miss this. We're sorry for the hiatus. We've both been kind of under the weather, and you know what? We're both still fighting it a little bit, but we're like, you know what? The paranormal doesn't stop, so let's do this thing.
That's right.
So
Maybe
here we are.
It's a government-planted virus trying to keep it down.
You know what? That's within the scope of the show. Whether it's within the scope of the truth or not, I don't know. Who's to say?
We did the Men in Black episode, and then we started having some issues after that.
Isn't it funny how that worked out? Yeah.
Hardware breakdowns, software breakdowns, mental breakdowns.
Yeah, more mental breakdowns than anything, I think. So, all right. Well, I want to welcome everybody. Thanks everybody who actually was aware of the show tonight. I really am sorry. We're always like, hey, every Tuesday, every other Tuesday, and every Friday at midnight. But guess what? We're here now. So thank you for showing up, and it's awesome. We missed you guys. We really, really did. We talked about it, and we were like, dude, this sucks. We have to get back to it. We just have to. All right, so without further ado, how about a little bit of news, Ryan? Blow our minds and expand our horizons a little bit.
Well, I'll I don't know if this is going to blow anyone's minds, but I've been doing some UFO research.
All right, if it's not going to blow our minds, forget it. Just forget. No, blow our minds. Let's have it. Let's have it.
Well, I've been looking at it with the skeptic eye. I've got two stories, both related to Yellowstone National Park.
Ooh, okay.
And they can probably just be rolled into one. But are you aware of the volcano site, or what they predict will be the site of the super volcano?
I am, yeah, actually.
That may destroy the United States. I'm not sure.
Well, that's not terrifying, is it?
So, apparently, volcanic activity has increased in the past couple of months. They've been having more eruptions than usual. Or not. I shouldn't say eruptions. Nothing has erupted. The supervolcano has not happened yet. Just seismic activity has increased. But along with that, people have been seeing UFOs in the sky. Of those. Now, this site has always had kind of a history of UFOs.
Mm-hmm.
So some people will take that as, the aliens are interested in our own, planet's activity, what we do with it and, beneath the crust.
We go there and we're like, hey, what is happening on this planet? So it would make perfect sense, really.
Yeah, I mean, we do that with Mars now.
Right.
We want to know everything about it. I'm sure visitors, from another time, dimension, or galaxy, they might be interested in the same thing.
Yeah, it's like meeting a new potential mate. You're like, hey, I want to get to know you,
Exactly. So I find that piece interesting.
Mm-hmm.
That there's usually an increase in UFO activity around there. However, these two pieces kind of fall short for me in that there's video evidence of these. Now, the first, it looks like a silver disc kind of rises out of the site, hovers for a moment, and then becomes a ball of light, and then shoots off in the distance.
You know what? That's a fairly common occurrence. I've read a lot of those, and it's like there's got to be something to that, and we don't have anything that'll do that.
Yeah, I when I read that description, I was like, oh, hey, that sounds cool.
Yeah,
I've heard those.
Cool and familiar. I like that.
Here's where it falls apart for me.
Okay.
It's once again potato cam.
It's always potato cam.
This thing, I don't know if I've ever owned a cell phone with video this bad on it. I mean, my first phone was.
Have you ever tried to video a UFO though?
Yeah.
That may be the kicker right there.
Maybe.
Yeah.
So I don't know who is going to Yellowstone on vacation with such a crappy camera.
Mm-hmm.
That's what makes this whole thing fall apart to me, because the video, I don't know if they uploaded. Maybe they uploaded it at a poor quality.
It's like, hey, Stacy, let's go on vacation and take really awful pictures.
Yeah.
That'll be fun, right?
Yeah, for our stills, I got some wind-up disposables.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. That's what they all look like. It does. I'm sorry. They just do. You're right.
Yeah, this video, it looks amazing what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, just like it says, a silver disc rises up, it becomes a ball of light and shoots off. Problem is, this video is like 10 frames per second. I mean, it's bad. So
that's outrageous, man. It's like
that is like my first cell phone, which was like back in Lord, I don't know, 2002 or something.
Right. It's like if a card company can create a Nintendo that looks better than your video from 2017, like what is the deal with that? The Nintendo's what, 22 years American old now or something like that? Like how?
No, it's 32.
32. Jesus Christ, that's true. We just well, this show's going to be depressing. I feel really old now. I want to talk about Metamucil and moving bowels. Man, how does that happen? But the point is that how does the Nintendo look so superior to a video from 2017? How does that happen?
Exactly. So if there's any truth to that story at all, I can only hope that maybe they just upload it to YouTube, like the lowest setting or something.
People don't really, I don't think, understand that. YouTube's like, hey, you want it to be quicker? Let's get it up fast. And maybe that's what they did. Yeah, maybe there is a better video out there.
Because you can do that. You can just dump something to YouTube in seconds, know, quality, be to hell.
Right.
And that's what your video will look like. So maybe that's the case. Hopefully, we'll keep an eye out. Maybe a better version of that video will come out. I don't know.
It's really hard to say, but I hope so.
My second story, pretty much the same, almost the same story.
Okay.
Is, I saw stills of this, and it looks like, a more traditional UFO in layman's sense, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
It's a disc shape. It's got lights all over it. Looks pretty compelling in the stills. But you get to watch in this video, and it's, in my personal opinion, looks like one of those pesky drones again.
You pesky drones.
So really awesome technology, the drones that we have, and you can do some really cool stuff with it, but the UFO fakes really bum me out.
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge bummer.
Hurting the field there.
Mm-hmm.
So you watch the video, and this thing kind of rises up over the horizon. It looks pretty compelling. The people viewing this thing seem generally freaked out. But it rises up, it hovers for a moment, and then it starts to take off across the horizon, like horizontally, and it's got that wobble to it.
Sounds like a drone, yeah.
Yeah, like there's a little bit of wind, and it's trying to keep itself balanced. You know, it looks really cool. I mean, it made for some cool pictures, but this one I'm completely dismissing. So,
I've been seeing like a huge. Sorry, go ahead. I thought you were done. My bad. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I thought, well, I should just lay this one to the side, since it's not really that compelling. But at the same time, I'm like, we do need to kind of bring these up too to keep the awareness
Absolutely.
up. You need to have a skeptic eye when you look at stuff like this.
Keep a skeptical eye to the sky, even.
Yeah, it very well could just be a drone. I've witnessed one of these things myself, like a UFO looking drone, which was really cool. I was driving, I don't know if you've driven to Elizabethton, Tennessee from Bristol.
I have, with you, as a matter of fact.
Pitch black out there. And something came over the horizon and actually over the road we were traveling on, but it had that wobble to it.
Oh, yeah.
First couple seconds, you're like, whoa, what is that? Could it be? Is it true? And then you see it. Just the way it moves. It's like, it's really cool looking, but that's a drone.
Yeah, well, we live in those times. What I was going to say is, I've seen this huge uprising in fake, like, internet videos of ghosts and things. You and I watched a video game supposedly haunting last night, or one night, and it was, come on, it's ridiculous, like, way fake. And then recently I've just seen, like, videos from, like, schools and stuff, and you can tell it's, like, hopping with activity. Like, if it's really haunted, then why is that your evidence? Why don't you have, like, multiple nights? It's like they set it up over this one day and it all happens.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All the dead gathers in school, because who doesn't want to be in school, right? That's
true.
That's the hot place to be, after all. Yeah.
The only and oh my gosh, his name is completely flown from my mind.
John Denver.
That's it.
Is that it? All right. Good.
No, the guy on Twitter that is he's still being
Was
haunted.
it David, or was the
Adam
that's it. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I can look it up.
Sandler, I believe it was. You can't turn it off when you get me going. I'm sorry. I know we talked about that. Are you talking about the one we actually I discussed a few shows ago?
Yeah, where he is and he's still kind of doing that. It's kind of like a live tweet of a haunting.
Cool.
So he's being terrorized in his apartment.
I saw that. I saw that there's updates on it. I actually bookmarked it in. It's the Dear David. The New York man swears he's being haunted by Dear David.
Yes.
And he's got photos, man.
He's got photos and video. He seems like genuinely terrified of whatever's happening.
So I'm going to put the link to this. It's Adam Ellis, and I'm going to put the link to it in the chat for those of you who might want to check it out. And it is there. So if you want to tell them about it a little bit more, go right ahead.
Well, the whole reason I brought it up was this is kind of you see stuff like this crop up, like I'm being haunted, or here's something that happened to me while I was streaming one night.
Right, right, yeah.
And then nothing ever comes of it ever again.
Mm-hmm. It dies, just completely obscure. Yeah.
Yeah, those I kind of write off. I mean, you can get your friends to hide in the background and slam some doors and throw things. And
yeah, like no one's ever used fishing twine or anything to fake, stuff like that. I don't know if you guys heard that, but my messengers went boom. So I'm gonna mute that. I'm sorry. That's very, very professional. Obviously, I will turn those off. So yeah,
no problem. So this guy, it's a more compelling story because it's still going on, and what lends a little credit to it is that he's already internet famous for. He's a cartoonist. Adam Ellis, that's his name.
Yeah.
And he has the most wonderful screen name to read on the air. His Twitter handle is Moby_dickhead.
Well, the show is going to end up there. We may as well kick it off that way, right?
And yeah, he's posted a bunch of new photos lately.
Did you say new or nude? Hopefully new. New nude photos. Oh, God.
There might be some in here if you dig for it.
There might be, yeah.
So, yeah, he's already internet famous for his cartoon work. So that, I mean, there's nothing really else to gain from hoaxing something like this.
Right.
For him, you know,
Mm-hmm.
I would think that, you know, if you tried to fake something like this and then because you've got to commit to it for long term. I mean, if you're living in this apartment and you claim that something is haunting you there, I mean, and he's clearly committed long term to this.
Yeah.
This has been on for 6 or 7 months now.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, if you went into that half-assed, I think that would damage your career.
Oh, I totally agree. Absolutely.
So, for anybody new listening to the show, you know what's going on is he is being terrorized by the spirit of a deceased child named David, who is moving things around in his apartment and breaking things and haunting his dreams.
Mm-hmm.
He's been having really weird dreams here. What in the world is this?
What, are you looking at the photos or something?
Yes, I'm gonna send you this one.
Let's have it, man. I'm down.
It's particularly terrifying. Put this on the side or something.
Yeah, it needs to go on the side. The whole thing, the whole shebang.
What is this, dude? Look at that.
Yeah.
So yeah, check out on Twitter. Just go to Twitter. You don't have to make an account there or anything, but
Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
it's either Howard the Duck or worse. It's at least Howard the Duck.
Yeah.
You don't want to wake up to Howard the Duck in the middle of the night.
Ugh.
That's a comic / 80s movie reference for you, those of you out there. Anyway, that's a terrifying photo, and we need to put that on the website for sure.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are pretty creepy. So yeah, if you want a good ghost story, he tweets updates for this happening, and like I said, it's kind of a live tweet of a haunting. But if you're interested, go to Twitter. You don't have to make an account, but he is Moby_dickhead on there, where you can search his name.
You just wanted to say it again. That's all it is. You were feeling frisky tonight. That's all it was. All right, well, yeah, that's cool. So, Ryan, if you wouldn't mind, please put that on the website for those who listen later and maybe, I don't know, miss chat or something.
There we go.
Or don't know how to search Twitter.
What have you got for news?
I've got a lot of cool stuff, but let me first start with this. So, it's after Halloween, but I don't think that it matters. There is, very sadly, a sick little boy out there. And his parents reached out to the internet and said that he loves Halloween cards. And there's an address where you can send them. So we went out and bought some cards, and I know a couple other people on my Facebook friends list did. But I'm going to post the link. I would love you guys to send him cards. I guess now for Christmas or Halloween, whatever you want. But I'll link to it, and I'm putting that up right now. But he would love it, and it would probably mean a lot to him. So if you can take a minute, please, stock up on cards and things for the holidays anyway. So send a couple his way. Just well wish the little guy. Everybody needs it once in a while. So
maybe we could, put him together like a little Christmas package.
Sure, we could do that.
Like a little care package.
Absolutely.
There's some treats in there and maybe some comic books or something.
Yeah, that actually sounds really awesome. If any of you others out there who are listening would like to contribute, you can message us here or on Facebook or our website, midnightspookhouse.com, Twitter it's at the Spookhouse. There we go. And Facebook is the Midnight Spookhouse. Get with us and we'll all pull together, and I'll be happy to do the shipping to him to save everybody else the hassle. Let's get the little guy something. Let's lift his spirits. Let's do something good tonight. How about it?
let's look into it and see what kind of what else he's into.
Sure.
I'll try to grab a toy and some comics and stuff.
Sounds awesome. Let's do that. All right. So with all that out of the way, I want to welcome, I know of 2 people listening. Now there's probably a lot more. I can't tell on this platform, but welcome Beth and Megan. Megan is not new to the show, obviously. Beth is, and welcome. She is awesome. Recently I found out, or I recently met her. She's my sister that I had never known, and she's awesome. So everybody say hi. She's in chat, and she's tuning in tonight.
Hi, Beth.
Hi, Beth. And she had some really cool, she had a cool question, and she contributed some ideas and things. She's awesome. She is rocking the first night on the Spook House. So, all right. Now, Millennium Falcon, everybody knows what that is, yes?
What is that?
What is that? All right. Eagle-eyed Star Wars fans, yes, Star Trek, have spotted the spacecraft sitting under a tarp near a golf club.
What?
First seen in the original in 1977, the Millennium Falcon, featured heavily in 2015's The Force Awakens, is set to return this year's follow-up, The Last Jedi. Now, this week, however, it was spotted in a less than exciting location, the Barrow Hills Golf Club in Surrey, England. It's where the film crew actually tried to keep it under wraps. But it didn't work out. That may go back to your talk of those little flying buzzards and things. Maybe that's how it got spotted, because it's clearly a picture from one of those. So no. You know what? It's Google Earth. It was spotted on freaking Google Earth.
That's actually a cool picture to have.
Who has privacy anymore?
I hope they leave that on Google Earth.
At this point, they may as well. It's completely exposed to the internet, which means everybody knows at this point.
Yeah.
All right. So that's not much in the way of news, but here's some actual news. Japanese and French scientists have announced the discovery of what could be a large hidden chamber in a pyramid. The Great Pyramid, even.
Ooh.
Yeah, the empty space that the researchers have discovered appears to be around 30 meters long and is situated above the Grand Gallery, the most striking of all pyramid internal passageways. We don't know whether this big void is horizontal or inclined. We don't know if this void is made by one structure or several. What we are sure about is that the void is there. It is impressive, and it was not expected, as far as I know, by any sort of theory. It could be a kind of space that the builders left to protect the narrow roof, but they don't know. So what do you think about it? What do you take away from that?
Well, they've determined that it's an empty space.
It is.
Okay.
I've got a blank space, baby.
I read where they'd found this, and I wasn't sure if they had determined yet if it was like a certain material up there, if it was filled with something, or if it's just like an empty space there.
It's hollow. They know little to nothing about it so far, which is kind of awesome.
So a lot of people think that, there's a mechanical purpose to the Great Pyramids.
I've heard that, yeah.
So
that has to go into Egypt Part 2, the show. So
right. So what if that's another piece of the mechanism, whatever this thing was supposed to do?
Absolutely.
One interesting theory could be that it's sound related. That somehow they played some kind of sound, or made some kind of sound that reverberated through the pyramid, and that might have something to do with amplifying that. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's hard to say. The pyramids are they're so mysterious anyway. The whole culture, old Egyptian, man. I love it. It's just a big question mark on time. Sort of sort of like the Mayans and things.
If only they didn't speak with emojis.
It's true. It's true. They're the fathers and grandfathers of emojis, and that's not cool at all.
We're heading back that way.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Maybe we are. Maybe that's an optimistic view. Maybe we'll get back to the old Egyptian times. It's better than this, guaranteed. At least when we were worshiping cats, we were better people, I think. All right. Now, Stephen Hawking is back in I was going to say news, but I guess it's not general news. It's scientific news. He is saying that artificial intelligence is progressing rapidly Recent landmarks such as self-driving cars or a computer winning at the game of Go are signs of what is to come. Enormous levels of investment are pouring into it, and the achievements we've seen so far will surely pale against what the coming decades will bring. I believe we've reached the point of no return. Our Earth's becoming too small, global population's increasing at an alarming rate, and we are in danger of self-destructing. He says this may be the beginning of the end for humanity. That AI will actually take over and we won't exist anymore.
Well, one way I've thought of that, and we kind of discussed this a little bit, is that maybe that's the next stage of evolution.
Maybe.
For us, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, already every one of us is tethered to a device, a personal computer. You know, you carry it in your pocket every day and you communicate with your friends with it. As technology progresses, that's going to become more and more integrated into us. And who's to say that eventually down the road, that'll be used to augment our minds as well?
It's
you know,
it's thought-provoking at very least. Now, I've never been one of those big proponents that believes the most strong religious person nor the most notorious scientist. And it's not because I don't like facts and I don't like faith. I like both fine. It's that I feel like they both kind of have agendas. And besides, science is mostly theories anyway. But he's not wrong in a lot of it. So I don't really know if I think it's the beginning of the end so much. But we can't deny, like you said, we are rapidly approaching some big step, no matter what it is. It's going to be a big step, and it could potentially be the downfall of us, I guess.
The traditional us, I guess.
Yeah, that's it. That's a very good way to put it. The traditional us.
Now, will that be dangerous? We, traditionally in our past, and still today, we don't get along with people that we, perceive as different than us. That could be the next great hurdle of humanity. People that decide, they don't want to be a part of that, so you've got the, what's the word for it? The AI integrated people versus the traditional human.
Right. Yeah. Maybe there will be like a whole thing where there's like traditionalists versus, I don't know, the new breed.
Right.
Let's face it, millennials and old timers are very different. I don't mean that as a joke, really. People are already very different from what they were 20 years ago. Things have changed very rapidly, as he put it.
Right.
So maybe we are dividing. Maybe there will come this big social construct that separates. I don't know, man. That's a topic right there. If that was a sneeze, bless you. If it wasn't, all right.
Natural evolution happens much slower than our technology advances.
Absolutely. That's definitely
why, the way we perceive things from our recorded history isn't long enough to perceive any changes in our evolution.
Mm-hmm.
Technology has just come up so much faster than that. And eventually, I think the technology will overtake our natural biology.
It's
hard to say.
It's scary, but it could. Some people, I'm like, I'd rather hang out with a robot. You hate to feel that way, but you just do. Some people, it's just like, and then some people, you're just like, they're no different than a robot. Maybe less smart is all, they're just, but basically just grinding their gears, rolling their wheels, and that's about all.
It's true. So
but,
I'm going to be that guy. And
be
bring
that
up
guy.
The time, because it's about time for a commercial break. Actually.
It is. I actually looked at 12:25 and I was like, Jesus, we're way past already, but we're mouthy folks, so it happens. All right, so yeah, let's take a break and let's come back and let's talk about time travel. Let's talk about time travel. You want to talk about time travel?
Right. Let's do it.
Let's do it. So we'll be right back.
Did you know that a young boy drowned? The counselors weren't paying any attention. Kill her, Mommy! Kill her!
One must never go to camp unprepared. In order to survive, arm yourself with the knowledge by listening to I'll Podcast on Your Grave every other Tuesday, or end up like the rest of the counselors. Go to MidnightSpookhouse.com for showtimes.
Maybe there was some truth to the first ones that were kind of discovered. There might be some truth to that. I feel like people have replicated it so much that I think it's lost its merit. And you even have some people out there that have made it their art form, their way of expression. So they're actually out in the field creating these pieces of art. It happens so much now on an artificial scale that even if we discover, new evidence, new crop circles that were believed to be formed by an alien spacecraft, you've got so many people out there, replicating it. How would we know the difference now?
Spookhouse Radio.
Oh boy, did I miss your voice, Ryan? That sweet, sweet voice you got there. I missed it. So
how would we know the difference?
What's that?
How would we know the difference in real crop circles versus fake ones?
How would we know the difference? That's a very good question. Well, you'd probably hear the tractor is the only difference that I can imagine. Otherwise, you know what? I have mowed a name into the yard before. We've got a fairly large front lawn, and you know that. I have mowed a name into it in cursive to be romantic, which I don't know how romantic that is, but I thought it'd be neat. And I'm just going to say it's probably possible to make your own crop circles if you really wanted to. But we've talked about it, you and I, and on the show, what about the first ones? As you said, what about the first ones? All right, well, we'll ponder that another day. So tonight we're going to take on time travel and then the perception of reality and versus reality. Ryan, where would you like to begin? Because I know that you love time travel. Who
doesn't?
It's true. Who doesn't? So if you'd like to sort of break it down a little bit. And then I'll give a little bit of info I've got, and then we'll talk about some stories because I know you have some, and I have some too. So that'll be fun.
So I think to jump into time travel, I think it's kind of I think one has to kind of decide what their take is on it. I think science says that time is ever flowing forward and it's not really recorded in a sense that you can, rewind a tape and go back to a specific moment.
Right.
Specific things are happening. Science will tell you that. And then we've talked a lot of multiverse theory on here, that there are an infinite number of universes for every possible moment in time. So in other words, there may be a universe where we're not doing this show, or there might be a universe where I don't know, we do the show on Saturdays. There might be a show where I'm not drinking a coffee right now. There's an infinite number of
There might be a show where we're not drunk. Yeah, I get it. I get what you're saying. No, I'm joking, guys.
So where I'm getting there is some people think that and I need to add that these infinite number of universes are also moving forward at different moments in time from one another as well. So somewhere out there is a multiverse where it is 1982 or whatever, and you're just being born. So one way of looking at time travel is that you're not necessarily rewinding the clock or visiting, a place back in your timeline, but rather you're hopping dimensions. So if we could find a way to map that, beyond, breaking through the barriers of dimensions anyway, if you could find a way to visit that dimension where you're just being born, perhaps you could witness your birth, so that's a whole other, it's a whole other topic. But
speaking of that, let me raise a complicated thing, if you don't mind, because time travel works with the multiverse and pretty much everything we talk about here. So imagine that time is not a tape. It is, we live in a multiverse, or, you go side to side and things, basically everything you just said and what we talked about on the multiverse show. Now, let's assume every verse matters.
Right.
Okay, so if everyone matters, which one would you potentially be changing? The one that you time traveled from? But then would you end up back in the same one, or would you just alter a different one? Like, could you possibly know, do you think, what difference you made in which verse? And I'm just going to say verse because it's less confusing than saying universe and things like that, because, it's a verse after all.
So if you follow the multiverse theory, what they're saying is, let's look at the, I go back in time and I kill my grandfather or whatever to prevent my
You
own
always
death.
go to murder. I like it.
So that's one of the more common or famous paradoxes there, that which states, obviously, if I go back in time and kill someone in my past that prevents me from being born, then that means I was never born to go back and do that.
It's a paradox. Right? It is.
So what happens there is
Dark Falls. I'm sorry. Welcome, sir. It's so good to see you. We are back. I'm so sorry, Ryan. I clicked over, I saw it, and I got excited. All right. Now continue.
So if you think time is linear, like there's a single universe and, no multiverses, and you're actually rewinding the tape, it's hard to say what would happen then. If you prevented yourself from being born, then you couldn't go back in time to prevent yourself being born.
That side of it makes a lot of sense with the second half of our show tonight about could reality all be one person's reality? And if so, if they were never born, would everything end instantly when they time traveled?
Right.
It kind of, smart. I like you think ahead. You're good people.
So does it rip the universe apart? What happens? So
is that what black holes are? Are they where it's happened before? It's like, no, you can't do that. You're going to tear me up.
So multiverse theory, what it's actually saying is that when I go back to commit my murder, I'm not actually visiting my past, but I'm going to a multiverse where I've not been born yet and everything. So effectively what I'm doing is, I am creating new multiverses that branch from that moment that I changed. So when I go back and kill my grandfather or whatever, what I'm actually doing is creating a bunch of timelines where I was never born.
Right.
I still exist there. Now, where it becomes troublesome is, unless there's a way to map it clearly, there's no way to get back to the multiverse that you left from.
Right, because you basically destroyed it, potentially.
Yeah, because every moment that we do, if I sneeze in the next minute or so, that gives birth to a multiverse where I sneezed.
Ooh, don't do it. That one's got a cold. We don't need none of those. That's a cold. That is potentially one you could catch a cold from. Go ahead. My typical junk. I think stupid stuff. You know that.
Every moment every second that passes births an infinite number of multiverses. So, yeah, there's if you could find a way back to the moment where you left from, what that's essentially saying is nothing would have changed for that particular multiverse, if it still existed at that point.
It's so much to wrap your head around, but it's just it's a lot easier to discuss when you think about it in tape form. Not even because that's the way we've always been sort of fed it, but because it's a lot easier to make like this direct correlation. Like, okay, well, you kill your grandfather, you don't exist, it ends for you. But then what impact does that have on your grandfather's wife, your grandmother, or other grandchildren, or things like that? It could spiral wildly out of control.
Exactly. So if you're thinking of time in a linear fashion, you're thinking of it in the Back to the Future way. If I'm sure everyone's seen Back to the Future.
Dark Falls literally said Back to the Future too.
Yeah.
We need you here. Smart guy.
Follow Doc's teachings, and then anything that you do in the past could have an effect on the future. So
it's true.
That's the linear way of thinking there. And the multiverse theory is that you're really birthing new possibilities. So from there,
Yeah,
so that's
like
our
where do
little
you go?
inter-
Where do you
that's
go?
that's our introduction to the two mainstream views on time traveling. So we've got some stories that appear to be some compelling, well, I don't know if they're really compelling evidence for time travel, but they're certainly interesting. And we can look at those in a manner of linear versus, if you basically, we did that disclaimer. So if you hear us say, well, this is a good example of the multiverse theory, you'll know what we're talking about.
Right.
So do you want to go first, or?
No.
I can.
I know you had some stories, and I'm afraid mine will just trip on yours. You handwrite your stuff, so you should go first. You put in that extra effort. You deserve it.
Actually, I typed these up.
Ooh, we're moving on up in the world. Now, Ryan, see, we're becoming AI. We're becoming robots. We're getting away from pens and pencils. But go ahead. No, you took the time to even type it. I usually just open a page and read, so I don't put in the effort.
So let's look at this one first. And this, I don't know. You'll have to. People, this is kind of a famous story, and people take this as, this could be aliens, this could be multiverse, multidimensional travel, this could be traditional time travel. Who knows? So this is the story of the Woolpit children.
Woolpit?
Woolpit.
Okay.
Yeah, so this went down in the 12th century. Basically, a young boy and a girl were found alone wandering through Woolpit, England, and they didn't speak English or any other language known at the time, and their skin was green.
Well, okay.
There's our little green men for the night.
We've always got to include the little green man. We have neglected Todd, the Spook House ghost, though. We haven't talked about him lately.
He might know more about this.
He might.
Is he the ghost of a green person? So yeah, they found these two lost children. They had green skin, and they just spoke like a gibberish language. A villager took them in, decided to care for them. The boy in the duo, he died soon after being taken in. And the girl continued to live with them. She survived, and she eventually learned how to speak English. And her skin grew lighter and eventually became like a more natural skin tone. So once she was able to speak English, they asked her, where did you come from? What, why did you have green skin, and what's all that about? She says that they come from a dark underground place called St. Martin's Land. And she and her brother were taking care of their father's sheep one day, and they discovered a cave. They went into the cave, and they were walking for what seemed like forever. And then they ended up at the other side, which was in Woolpit. So
it's a believable story because of the names. I mean, you're herding sheep near St. Martin's Land. You're moving
that's
to
where they said
Woolpit?
they were from.
I love it.
St. Martin's Land. So is this an example of like a time slip? Where these could they have been from the future and moved back? Or could they have been from the distant past and moved forward? It's hard to say. What do you make of that one?
I've actually heard that one, and I actually don't know what to make of it. Einstein said, if I'm not mistaken, let me try to remember how he said it. He had a theory, something like if you were near the edge of a black hole, that time would slow down.
Right.
So potentially, you've got this separation between Earth time versus time near the black hole. So I think things could slip through. I do. I think that, I don't know that it happens yet. At least we don't know how or about it, but I think it's probably happened. Are you going to believe somebody if they're like, oh, hey, yeah, I come from a different time. And I can't even tell you a year because where I come from, there aren't years.
Right.
I just come from a layer or a verse, you know. It's just like we would be like, you're psycho. There's no way that's true.
Right.
But when you've got someone like Einstein who has clearly led in everything he did, saying that he believes it is a possibility, then I'm game. I don't see what I could ever say to disprove it. And that's the thing, where it's another one of those subjects that you can't disprove. It absolutely could be true. And, you know, there's naysayers for about everything from religion to science, obviously. But the truth is if you can't disprove it, you're left with something. I was about to say evidence, but that wouldn't be fair. You're left with possibility, let's say.
Right.
So, and then we try to preach that around here, don't we? There's always the possibility if there's not proof to the contrary. So what do you think? I mean,
keep an open mind.
Yeah. So what do you think about that? What about it strikes you?
Well, I think what's compelling about it, that it is a famous tale, and it is actually kind of shaped Woolpit, you know, modern Woolpit. There is a sign, you know, because Woolpit is kind of known for this story now. So the town sign has the image of a boy and girl holding hands, which is supposed to represent the two children that were found.
Mm-hmm.
So people for years and years, you know, they believed the tale and passed it down. So I don't know.
Yeah, that one's not got a lot of backing to it. Like, unfortunately, that's one of those where a lot of people have heard it if you're into time travel, you know, like scientifically or the real stories or whatever. But there's not a lot to it. That's like recently I read that a Russian boy says he actually came from Mars. Like, he's a little kid. And the story's kind of making its rounds, and there's not a lot of merit to it, but you're just like, is it out of the question? I don't know. Maybe, probably in this case, but as far as the time travel kids, I don't know. I really hate to crap on it, you know?
Well, some people, you know, if you try to explain what's happening, they say that the kids were probably malnourished, and that accounted for the green skin. That you can
I've never seen it.
You know, depending on your diet, it I guess
it's Willy Wonka. That's what they're saying.
Yeah.
We'll call it the Willy Wonka theory, when your skin changes colors to green or purple.
That's about it for that story. So
Darkfall says where they just don't use the Julian calendar. That's absolutely, I mean, the measure of time in another verse could be completely different. They say in the Bible that a Lord's Day is super long, and I know that is in no way exactly how it's written, because it's right. Much better worded than I am. But you know, we have no idea how long a day to the Lord would be. So if you believe that, then there's no reason that it couldn't be different in another verse. You know, as far as I'm concerned. And within that, there's a lot of room for error. There's a lot of room for where time is different from one to the other. Maybe the days are longer. Maybe there aren't nights. Maybe, I don't know. I guess I'm really just going to be like, you know, we're the two dudes laying under the stars. Dude, do you think it's possible? You know, I don't want to get too far off the reservation. So I'll excuse myself from that. Do you have more? I know you have more stories. So let's have another.
So let's look at something a little bit more modern. It's modern to me because the 90s happened, you know, only 10 years ago, right?
Right. God, doesn't that depress you? See, this is the depressing show. You know what? If you're over 18, you were born in the 90s, and it's almost 2020, so everybody's old now, not just us.
Yep.
Everybody's old.
So this went down in 1996. A man and his wife were shopping in London, and his wife went into a bookstore, and he decided he was going to go elsewhere. So he left down the street. So as he's leaving the bookstore, walking down the street, he noticed that everything was suddenly quiet,
and everything looked really different. Even the kind of the color of the atmosphere looked different. And then somebody was honking their horn at him from behind, and it was a van from the 1950s. Had to swerve around him, and he looked down and noticed that he was now in the middle of the road, walking around. So he's kind of freaking out because he's obviously disoriented and lost his temporal positioning in the universe, I guess. He looks around. Everybody's dressed in like 1950s style clothing. So he freaks out and tries to run back to the bookstore where he left his wife, but it's not there. In its place is there's a woman's clothing store called Cripps. So he freaks out and he goes into the place anyway, even though it's not the bookstore that he left his wife in. As soon as he opens the door,
lucky fellow, for the guys out there. Yeah, no, I'm just joking.
So as soon as he opens the door and goes inside, it's the bookstore again. And he's back in 96.
That is traversing the multiverse if I've ever heard it. My God, that's like one to another, back to another. Jesus.
Yeah.
That guy knows what he's doing.
Do you think that's an example of traversing the multiverse? Or did
Absolutely.
He back time?
Well, I definitely think that's traversing. If you can go from one to another like that, I think if, I don't know, I feel like there would be, if time were a tape, I just feel like it would work differently. Does that make sense? I know that has no, it sounds ridiculous maybe, but I just feel like they would be very different outcomes, you know, from time being a tape, because that would affect the entire universe, where this sounds like it just affected him.
Yeah.
So traversing the multiverse seems like the sort of thing there. Megan says, I think he was on psychedelics. It sounds like it.
One thing I forgot to mention is that Cripps was a women's clothing store back in the 50s, and they went under in the 60s. So he wasn't confused or like went to the wrong store, and like they just don't exist.
Well,
so, but.
So this is just basically word of mouth. Obviously there's no proof of this. Nobody has a rock that has particles from that or anything, obviously. But what do they think of the guy? Megan, are you saying that they've proved he was on psychedelics, or what's up with this guy? What's the story? Did he kind of stick with the story, or what happened with that?
Yeah, he's always stuck with the story. But he doesn't, and I don't think we're ever really going to find proof of these things.
Right. How would you?
The only thing I can recommend is if you find yourself in a situation like that where you've clearly, slipped dimensions or time or something like that, is try to grab some kind of artifact. Something that will prove what happened. But
then it's just an antique in the modern world. Would you really be like, I've never seen a candle holder from the 50s. No, this is totally new. Like, what would you do?
Here's where it gets kind of dangerous and a little scary.
I like that.
Let's say you grabbed an object from back then.
Mm-hmm.
Would that kind of tie you to that universe by touching, more objects than you really should? What if he opened the door at the clothing store and it was just a clothing store? What if he was stuck there?
You don't blame the kid for trying to grab the candy. You blame the multiverse for allowing somebody to be near the candy, in my opinion. So if it's going to be like pulling back and forth on the guy, I'm like, that sucks, multiverse. You're not playing fair. That's my thought on it.
So if you could get back with that artifact, I wonder, would it still be brand new? Like if you grabbed a can, what did you say?
Would it be aged? Is that what you're getting at? That's cool, man.
Like, would it be aged, or would you come back with this flawless 1950s candlestick? That I don't know. I think it's scary. Well, it's scary for one thing that he just slipped through time or multiverse anyway, without any warning.
Right. Yeah, that's
scary.
Man.
We've heard theories that there are. I guess you can think of it as like a thinner
wall of reality, I guess.
I wish I had a wall of reality. I didn't just bang my knee on the corner of the desk. Let's hit that one real quick. Jesus, that's painful. Dark Falls says, or it could draw the two universes closer together. That's a good thought. Maybe they merge eventually. Maybe he's in the 90s, that's the 50s, and they meet together in the 70s. On Dark Falls' birthday in 72, I saw that Dark Falls. All right.
So
Full
when we
circle.
talk about multiverse, we talk how, anything that you do in any moment branches off in a new universe.
Mhm.
So they have to be connected at some point, right?
You would think so.
Or
where do they split at birth, or do they split at
Unless you,
separate occasions and they branch forever like this, like your family tree sort of does?
unless you want to get really crazy and deep and go into quantum theory, that these multiverses are happening at the other end of the universe, that the universe is a mirror image of itself, and two particles can exist in one place, across the universe, here and across the universe. It's a crazy theory, but if that's the case, then slipping might not be that possible. But if the universes are right next to each other, the ones that you're essentially creating by each passing moment, maybe they are connected.
You know what? And I think we discussed this on another show. What if in one you're born and you grow up, and the other you were never born? Somehow something happens, you slip, they get drawn together, and you spontaneously human combust.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Right, yeah. And I'm just, it's just relevant again. It's like, you don't see these coming sometimes. And what if that is what spontaneous human combustion is? You come together, there's this meeting of them, one where you don't exist, or one where you've died, and then one where you do exist.
Or we talked about, what if in multiple universes somehow you became completely synced up, and in those universes you were doing the exact same thing?
Right.
In other words, in 1,000 different universes, for some reason you decided to sit down and read the newspaper. Well, that's not supposed to happen in the multiverse. There's supposed to be an infinite number of possibilities where you're doing an infinite number of different things. But if all of those sync up for some reason, maybe you combust.
Maybe. Megan says to stop it because she's terrified of the combustion, but there's got to be an explanation for it, and this isn't completely off the wall if you consider that human combustion actually happens. How far is this from it? Potentially it explains things. Now it's a theory like anything else, but I think some people hear and they're like, "Oh, multiverse, that sounds nuts," but does it? If you really think about it, and we've thought about it because it's come up on almost every show, even the ghost ones, the Ouija ones, like it comes up, and because it makes more sense than the tell of the tape, then this constantly rolling tape that has everybody's lives on it. That just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. The multiverse makes a lot more sense.
Right.
And you don't even have to think of it as an ever-evolving multiverse. You can think of it as once a change happens, the old one's shut down. That it doesn't grow and grow. That it just it changes maybe.
Right. Exactly.
But man, your stories, they're good. I really like that story. I never heard that one. That one was new to me. Do you have any more? I mean, your stories are great. Let's continue with yours.
I do. So this one takes place, and this is another example of like a slip.
Okay.
We've somehow slipped to another verse, and without really any explanation why. So this happened in 1979. A couple were traveling through France, and it got late on them one night, and they decided to stay at a place for the night. They found a hotel on the road that they were traveling on, and they thought, this is like in a weird place. They approached the place, and not only was this hotel in a weird place on the road, but it had everything about it just looked kind of out of place. They said that there were heavy metal latches on the doors.
Yes, heavy metal. I love it.
There were bars on the windows. No locks within the door frame. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, right.
like this is so what had happened was they actually, and my file is hung up on me.
No worries. This is why technology won't take over anytime too soon, because it's very imperfect. So
So yeah, they go in, they decide to stay the night. In the morning when they woke up, they had breakfast at the hotel, and they encountered two French policemen, and they were wearing old uniforms that had capes, and you know, they weren't from France, so they could tell these were kind of like period costumes, I guess. So they weren't quite sure, you know, like, is there a reenactment of something going on, or
you would be like, is there like a Renaissance fair happening? What's going on, guys?
Yeah.
This is weird. Dark Falls actually raised a really fun but cool point. A line from Hotel California. You can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave. Seems oddly relevant here.
So, yeah, they obviously the whole place seemed like out of, you know, the past.
Mm-hmm.
And so they thought, oh, you know, okay, this is like a themed thing or whatever.
Right.
They go to leave and they pay for the room, and it only costs 19 francs. Which kind of blew their mind.
2 packs of hot dogs will get you a night.
Yeah.
I'm sorry if that was if that sounded like I was picking on I guess New Yorkers. That's my accent for you, but I'm sure you've got a good one for us too, guys, so it's fine. Anyway,
everyone in France and everyone in New York is offended right now.
It's true. I'm so sorry. I'm not really, but I'll say it.
You know, the going rate for a hotel at that time period was like 200.
Mm-hmm.
So they were like, "Oh, what's up with that?" But that's cool. So they left.
God,
and
yeah, that's awesome.
They at the tail end of their vacation, they came back through and they decided, oh, you know, let's stay at that place again, and it wasn't there.
It's Howl's Moving Hotel.
Yeah, and the area they were in was modernized. So
that's bizarre.
Like, when they went back through, like, we're on the same road and everything, but you know, everything looks way different, and that place is nowhere to be found. So they looked into it, and they did some research on their own, and they found that those soldiers, their uniforms were from 1905.
That brings me right back to our ghost conversations about, are spirits really spirits? Or are all of them really spirits, should I say? Or some of them just from a different verse, you know, overlapping with us? But then you think about, you know, I don't know, man. It's just so much to take on.
Mm-hmm.
But it's great, isn't it? I mean, it's wonderful to think about, because I think it says a lot about death not being final. That's what I kind of take from this whole field, is that there's so much information on it. Now, there's a lot of questions, but clearly something continues. And you know, there's loved ones that, you know, communicate with you, and you know it's them. And people see before they die. They see people, you know, maybe they're living in a heaven verse or something. And we're thinking of heaven as a big castle in the sky, where it's really just like this perfect verse where everything goes the way you want it to. You can live how you want to. There's no danger. There's no death. There's no pain. You know, and maybe that's where, you know, the God that certain religions discuss could be. Maybe that's just a different verse, and death is traversing into that.
Possibly.
Yeah, I you know, then again, possibly not. But the point is time travel bleeds into a lot of things. Time travel is super cool. I love it. I want to say groovy, since we were talking about the 50s in the UK, you know, groovy, man. I know that came a little later, but we went back in time, so.
So yeah, do you think that's kind of another example of a verse slip, I guess?
That's a funny way to put it, I guess, man. Maybe.
When they went back and did their research, they found that there was like a small inn there in that time period.
Mm-hmm. So a reverse slip, or Howl's Moving Hotel Castle. That's a great
So-
movie, for the record, guys. If you haven't seen it, it's a cartoon, but it's amazing. Is it not? It's really thought provoking on its own. It's just
Oh yeah.
it's just great. So I don't mean to always go to cartoons, but we're very immature. Ryan tries to keep us going. I did want to bring up one thing on time travel. What does it have to do with space? Do you believe that going to space could lead us to figuring out time travel? Can aliens time travel? Could they tell us that time isn't even at all a multiverse or a tape, that things are completely different? Do you believe they hold the secrets they understand, or do you believe we'd literally have to go through a black hole to figure it out?
I think space does hold all the answers. And one thing that holds us back from understanding a lot of this is the human construct of time itself. You know, the time that we've created
Absolutely, yeah.
for ourselves. In other words, 1 o'clock in the morning doesn't exist
Right.
anywhere in the universe for here.
Right. It doesn't even matter. The truth is
Yeah.
that our bodies, we need the daytime to do things. Plants need light. We need the day to survive, nights to rest. It doesn't matter if it's 1 a.m. It's
Right.
completely irrelevant.
So, yeah, it's going to be hard for us to develop a deeper understanding of that. But time flows in such different and unnatural ways. The deeper you get out into the universe, and the closer you get to large objects that manipulate gravity in different ways, like black holes.
Yeah. If we could understand black holes, I think we'd find a lot out. Now, maybe black holes are really just because time slows down on the edge of a black hole. Maybe that's where you can start sliding into other verses, man. I mean, who's to say? What's through their
That is
heaven? Who knows?
That's a dangerous place to be.
It sure is. And
Black hole.
we talked, a couple of shows ago about there's a huge one all of a sudden, and it's growing. So is it a matter of time? Is that how the world ends? Is that how the universe ends? Does it all end sucked into a black hole? Is it slowly happening?
Could be.
Could be. Who's to say, really?
Has the universe already ended? And it's just not brought up to us. You can scare yourself with theories.
There
like
goes that time thing again, if you think about it in that way, yeah, maybe it's already ended somewhere and it just hasn't caught up to us yet. Maybe we're not even really here having these thoughts right now. Maybe it's all long gone and we're just we're playing our role. It gets deep, man. It gets deep, right?
That actually transitions us to the next topic.
It does. So it's a great place for a break, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. We're actually about 15 over for a break.
We are. But we've missed it.
Just trying to police the schedule.
Yes. Let's police that schedule and let's hear about my story, folks. So let's take a quick break and we'll come back and we'll talk about reality perception and reality versus perception. So, are you good with that, Ryan?
There will be a quiz on this on Tuesday.
There will be, so everybody be ready. All right, we shall return. I've seen a ghost, or I've heard a ghost, I should say. The doorknob next to me, I was trying to sleep and it was rattling like someone was going to come out of the door. And I once saw an aircraft, silent, dead as the night, and then gone. So that's my story. What's yours? Hope you're enjoying the show tonight. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us. But the fun doesn't have to stop there. If you head over to MidnightSpookhouse.com, you can download all the old episodes and listen to them as you want. Also, feel free to use the contact link and send us your messages. We might read them on air. Once again, head over to MidnightSpookhouse.com.
Spookhouse Radio.
And we have once again returned. We have transitioned to a verse that the commercials are over in. So here we are. Now, we have talked about time travel, and that's going to come back 1,000 times because can you ever be done really talking about the possibilities of it? Like aliens. When you know about something, it becomes really boring, and we could talk about Stranger Things for the next year, but we're not gonna. What are you going to say about it, right? So let's get to reality and perception. I couldn't decide if I wanted to title it Versus Perception or so we just went with Reality Perception. Now, there is a big difference, actually. Now, I don't think you think about it. You're just like, okay, well, I perceive reality, and that's probably where you drop it. But Beth was awesome and sent me a definition of each, which will kind of help set the table here. Perception is a single unified awareness derived from sensory processes while a stimulus is present. Now, let's understand that. One awareness where your senses are stimulated, essentially. That's your perception. Something's happening. You're aware of it. Now, reality, what's that?
By, stimulation, that doesn't mean as like a significant event.
Absolutely.
For example, like I'm looking around my room, my vision, just seeing things is stimulating my vision,
That's it. Absolutely. Now, reality is the state of things as they are or appear to be, rather than as one might wish them to be. So reality is, for better or worse, the world we live in, essentially. Perception is what you're taking from what's happening more, right? Is that a good way to put it, you think?
Yeah.
Okay, reality is, perception is what you make of it.
Right.
So there's quite a difference. Now, I kind of came up with this. It was janky. It wasn't the most profound thing that I've ever come up with. But I started thinking, and it got really deep, and I was just laying there in bed, and I couldn't sleep. And it was one of those, it's like, it's another rabbit hole, just like time travel. And you start wondering, so what if there's this guy, Adam Ellis, the Dear David guy, or is it Dear David? Was that it?
Yeah, Dear David.
So what if there's the Adam Ellis guy, and we're all just living in his reality? Now, we're perceiving it as our own, but what if it really isn't? What if when he dies, we all die? Would we know? Probably not. We'd all be dead. But what if? Think Truman Show, sort of. Now, again, it's a deep one. This is one of those, like the multiverse, that you can just continue on forever and will come back up a lot. Ryan, what do you think? Now, just put your own spin on, if I said, Ryan, what is the true reality and perception of, what is it? What does it mean to you, reality and perception?
I think that we're all brains in jars.
It's hard to say we're not, right?
I mean, that's some people really truly believe in that theory. So one version of this theory, it's otherwise known as the Matrix theory.
Mm-hmm.
And that reality, or our perception of reality, is the simulation.
Right.
So me looking around my room, I'm sitting on my bed, none of this is actually real.
Mm-hmm.
It's all stimulus that's put directly into my mind by the machine or
I like that, the machine
or what have you. So
I like that.
One thing that gets a little scary, like what you were saying about Adam, is that what if you're the main character in your simulation,
mm-hmm.
but everybody else, we are part of the simulation as well.
Right.
In other words, we're all brains in a jar in this lab somewhere.
Darkfall says, I'm a brain in a bucket. I can't afford a jar. I like that.
But none of us are networked together. In other words, we don't really truly interact with each other.
Mm-hmm. Right. This is all just basically a simulation to be support for Adam. To look as though there's a world on Twitter seeing his messages.
Right.
What if, let me say real quick before I forget, because this is not a profound thought at all. What if the more we talk about him, the more we make his reality real? Just a thought. Anyway, go ahead.
Get a little wild.
Yeah, well, it happens.
So, another scary thought to that, like, what if whoever's reality this is, what if they're actually the last human left? Or the last human brain.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever is observing this reality with us, what if it's just there as part of a museum exhibit or something?
You know, like this is how humans live their life or whatever. And, you know, you can observe the simulation as well.
Well, you know what? We'd be entertaining if we weren't dangerous. You would watch the movie and be like, Jesus, I'm glad that's not reality. Hopefully this isn't reality. This is just our perception for some reason. You know, people say that news feeds us the stories the way they want us to see them. And then we've talked about how aliens and the government, you know, maybe we're to believe things a certain way on purpose. Who's to say that it is as bad as we're being fed? You know, clearly they're making decisions to make it worse for us. You know, like, who's to say we're clearly sheep. I don't want to say that exactly, but we are. But who's to say it's not just the perception we're being fed and the reality isn't this necessarily, or it doesn't have to be.
Right. And that's a good way to really think of all this is that, you know, the way the media is given to you. It comes to you the way they want you to see it.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't necessarily reflect the way that it actually is.
Reality says we're all people and we're all capable and we know love and we know fear and we can band together, but our perception of it that's being fed to us is that we hate each other because of race or creed. You know, we're supposed to hate each other and it's dangerous out there. There was a shooting. Well, what about all the other places that there wasn't a shooting? We're not being fed. Well, it was a great day in Sunnyvale, California today. Nobody did anything bad. We're being fed the bad stuff because it sells, and what if for a bigger purpose?
Right. And if you look at it in a simpler way, you know, and not to get political or anything.
Sure, I get it.
You know, if we look at it in a simple way, you know, you could say all of that is to increase gun sales.
Right. Absolutely.
You know, so
not to advocate or go against them at all. It's just, it may be. What if, let's face it, greed is at the helm, no matter what reality or perception we're having. Greed is clearly ruling the world currently. I've always said that, like, maybe things aren't that much worse than they were in 1984, for example, which they seem to be, but we're also hearing it all now because of the internet and mass media and the spins and yeah, they're pushing guns. Maybe they want us to create violence. That way it'll sell more guns out of fear. I think that's what you were getting at. I just wanted to put my 2 cents in real quick. So, yeah, maybe.
Yeah, so, if we jump back to our brain in a jar theory or our matrix theory, what is the bigger thing to be gained there? Are we just a museum experiment? Or are we an experiment in general?
I hope that's all this is.
What is there to be gained from the human experience, whether it be real or artificial?
You know, that's a tough one to answer, man. I guess honestly, I don't really know.
I mean, if we want to get really basic about it, I mean, in the movie The Matrix, you know, we're batteries, you know,
right?
For things, you know, they feed off of our body heat and they allow us to live in our simulation, so it's not as cruel to us, I guess. I guess they could just grow like a mindless husk to create heat for them, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where I like bringing scientific topics to the show because, you know, we can be like, listen, we really kind of do know our stuff. We're not just two guys who are going to ramble. But some of these things you can bring all you want. I've got a list of things right here that are considered the 7 biggest illusions in life. And it's to prove that reality and perception are completely different things. So let's try to put a little bit of science to this, but let's also, I don't know, this will kind of think outside the box, I think, a little bit. Now, here are considered the 7 biggest illusions in life. I will do something when I have more time. So if there's no such thing as time, do it now. Do it whenever. If there is, you'll have time. Why do we not? So this becomes essentially an illusion. You're telling yourself essentially that I'm just not going to do it right now.
Right.
So the reality is you could, but your perception is you don't have time. That's kind of the point of this list is the truth is versus the lies we tell ourselves. We could be living in a world that is a lie only because we're telling ourselves it, which is kind of what we were just getting at a little bit. Another is, I will get there faster if, when you do reach a milestone, it will have happened exactly how it should have happened, basically, is the thought on that one. So did you really get there any faster, or did you just get there as you were supposed to? That becomes back to the time thing. I have control over. Our spirit has access to this world through the mind in the same way that we plug into the phone socket to get internet access. Now that the tool is available to you, what you do with it's up to you. You control nothing except your own mind, which often controls us anyway. So even when you have the best tools, it's still the user in a lot of cases, and the tools only have a limit. So there is no absolute control, obviously. Hitler shot for it, and look how that worked out. It went horribly for everyone, but thankfully he didn't get it, is the point. I will be happy if, I want that new game, Ryan, and then when I get it, I'm like, this was fun, but now I'm not getting to want it anymore. You lose that. So when are you happy? You're happy when you perceive the happiness without needing something else from it. I know this is getting really deep, but I actually thought this was a really good list. I can change others. Can you? No. Absolutely not. You can help others. You can aid others. You can never change anyone for any reason ever. You can make a difference.
You have to change yourself.
Absolutely. That's a big one. And that's a hard one to learn in life. You see people and you want to help, but you can't help if they don't want to be helped. I will go and do this win, which I think goes back to the first one. And then I'll start exercising when I have more energy. What do you mean? You have the same amount of energy now as you'll have tomorrow. You may be sleepy, but you could get up and do it. It's just, the point is it becomes a cycle of you making your own reality from your perception. I'm tired, or I'm busy, or it's raining, I couldn't. You kind of create your own reality. You craft it from your perceptions, your moods and things. I just thought that was kind of a cool list to kind of walk through a lot of the differences of the actual reality versus our perception of it. So, yeah. I mean, I didn't really know where to take that, but I thought it was kind of cool. So,
yeah.
Thankfully, it went bad for Hitler eventually. Yes. Oh my God. Thankfully, yes. That's very true. So that's pretty much all I had for this. If you want to go into more, I had some thoughts on video games and reality, but we're kind of getting late in the show, and we got a lot of really good questions, so I don't want to push it any further than I need to. So I'll leave it to you.
What we can take from that, kind of a life lesson, is that happiness is what you make of it, what you create for yourself. And
absolutely.
I think you truly learn to be happy. You learn how to make that happiness when you start to let go of others and trying to make them happy, and start doing that for yourself. And I think that's the absolute truest statement that you said in any of the lists, is that, you can't change anyone else. You can do things to help people along, but ultimately,
that's it.
Ultimately, and this is the takeaway from all this, you are in the driver's seat of your reality.
Yep, absolutely.
So make good choices. Be excellent to one another.
Well, I don't know. I could go on. Megan is here, and maybe she wants to say something about it. I actually don't know. She kind of sat down and grabbed the mic, so I'm going to let her. All right, Megan, I don't know if you've been following us, but we've been talking about perception versus reality. Do you have anything on that? I know that you had messaged that you were really into that time travel story, the one about the two kids. You said you thought it was a really cool story. So here, say what you want. Introduce yourself for the evening and things.
Hey guys, I'm Megan.
If you don't remember her, she's Megan, and she's awkward, so she literally introduced herself as if you don't know who she is. Yes, Megan, we're aware of you. Please join us.
I wasn't really prepared to say anything on this topic. I didn't catch the last 10 minutes of what you were talking about. So.
Well, okay. Well, I'll tell you what then, Ryan, if you're done with this topic, what we'll do is we'll let her come in and kind of talk on the questions from the listeners with us if you want.
Sure. That sounds good to me.
All right. So let's take a quick break. We'll come back and we'll talk about Lots of cool different stuff, actually. I wanted to do some more spooky stories, but I don't think we're going to have time. We'll see. We'll see how fast it goes. So let's take a break real quick, and we shall return. Hey, Ryan.
Yeah.
Let's go rent a movie.
I don't know. I was kind of looking forward to a sub.
Wonder if there's a place where we can have both. VHS.
Yes. What does VHS stand for?
Sign says VHS and hot subs. That's awesome.
Smell those meatballs.
Hey, look. Foot-long meatball sub and a free movie rental all weekend long for only $5.99.
Dude, look. Rent RoboCop 1 and get RoboCop 2 free this weekend only. Rad, man.
You mean for only $200 down, I can get a Sega CD?
Yeah, dude, and a free tuna biscuit.
Don't forget your free copy of Night Trap.
Night Trap? Whoa.
Don't tell Mom.
You boys.
VHS and hot subs at 30 Town Center Drive on the left by the abandoned go-kart track. For more, head over to MidnightSpookhouse.com. Get your 70s, 80s, and 90s fix with Retro After Dark, part of the Spookhouse Radio Network. Spookhouse Radio. All right, we have returned, and with Megan's awkwardness at bay, hopefully now.
Nope.
That'll never happen. Ryan knows her. He knows her. He's known her longer than me, and he knows that awkwardness is not going anywhere at this point.
Nope.
So let's take. All right, let's do some listener questions. You guys talk to us. Beth, are you still out there with us? You've been quiet. She's kind of shy, and she's awesome. She just needs to warm up to us, I think. And I know everybody's going to like her. She's amazing. Megan actually hasn't really got to talk to her yet either. So it's kind of everybody. Hey, let's all embarrass her and go sing happy birthday at her table. No, I'm joking.
Is it your birthday?
No.
Oh.
See, you're awkward. It was a joke. You're awkward.
I'll sing happy birthday right now.
Ryan got it. I know you will. That's part of your job, though. All right. So here are some questions. Ryan, would you mind if I read them tonight? And let Megan.
I want to read one.
Well, okay. Well, I know that Ryan had a throat thing more recently than me. I mean, I still have mine. It's allergies, but I'd like to take that off Ryan if you wouldn't mind. Would you mind if we read them?
Go for it.
Okay. So, Megan, you go ahead.
Prove to me that you can read, Megan.
Yes, prove it.
Okay. Do you think there is such a thing as predicting the future? And this comes from Tara.
Could be Tara.
Or Tara.
You failed. You did not prove him.
Could be Tay-Ray.
It could be Tay-Ray. Oh my God. It's a good thing I have a compressor on that microphone. That would have just busted everybody's phones right there.
I'm sorry, that caught me off guard.
You can't say stuff funny. She can't handle it. You know that.
That sounded like you went flying across the room.
That's pretty much par for her course every night when she comes home. That is just who she is. We love it, I guess. So, well, do you think there's such a thing as predicting the future? I don't. I think there's really good guesses, but I don't necessarily think there's. But then again, if someone can traverse, maybe they can. Then again, maybe you can't predict what happens when you do traverse. So I'm really confused. Next. Whoever's next. Go.
So, I think, I don't know. Let's apply some multiverse theory to it.
Our favorite thing to do.
So we were talking about, when we did the time traveling bit earlier, maybe you could go back to a multiverse where you hadn't been born yet or whatever. So maybe there are multiverses that already exist that are, 50 years in the future from now. Maybe somebody could potentially have a perception of that.
But do you think you could ever get into one specifically? Like, okay, I'm going to go to the one where the Braves win in 2014. I'm going to go to that one, like specifically.
Yeah, so ultimately, it falls apart there.
Right, I think so.
There are an infinite number of possibilities. I could say I'm going to win the lottery at some point in my life.
I can predict you'll have lots of new friends.
I can predict that I will be awkward.
Well, that's not a prediction. That's just a fact. That's the reality and our perception.
Oh,
both.
Hey, Beth. Beth's still here.
Yeah. See, she's awkward. She says, hey, in the middle of stuff. Hello. Hi, Beth. We're saying hi again, apparently. Welcome. Say hi to Dark Falls. Don't be rude.
Hey, Dark Falls.
All
It's
right.
been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. All right, Ryan, continue, sir.
I forgot what I was saying.
She does
I'm
that.
sorry.
We'll be talking at night. I'll be like having this really profound thought. I'm like, do you think that when they said that in the Bible, it meant something? And then she'll
Look,
laugh.
a squirrel.
Look, yeah, squirrel. I'm like, well, that's gone. That's never going to make it to the show because I don't know what I'm talking about anymore. So there we go. Anyway, so Megan, what do you think? Do you think someone can predict the future?
I think that it's clearly been proven that some people have, like Nostradamus. Now, I know he has a lot of things that were very wrong or that haven't happened yet. And maybe he was very good at guessing, like you said, in a very vague sense. So it sounds like he was right. But I think some people have the gift.
Maybe. Absolutely possible. I mean, I don't think Ryan nor I were like, nah. It's just like, it's not likely, but a lot of this stuff probably isn't likely.
Now, don't get me wrong. I don't think that people who get paid
to
predict the future, like Miss Cleo or Chloe or whatever her name was, I don't think she can predict the future. But
I believe she passed away, God rest her soul.
Oh, well,
but I just wanted to say, rest her soul. I just wanted to do that, acknowledge that. Anyway, go ahead, Ryan.
I think the more vague you are, the more accurate you get to be.
Absolutely.
Like if I say, okay, it's just like your horoscopes. For Aries, today something neat is going to happen to you.
I hope so. I'm an Aries.
Yeah, like
that'd be neat.
Then, after having read that, the first neat thing that happens to you, you're going to be like, oh my God, it was right.
Oh my God, it was so neat today. Thank you, horoscope. The universe was looking out for Aries today.
Or watch out for negative people. They'll make you feel negative too. Obviously, watch out for negative people. Yeah. The more vague you are, you can make up whatever and it'll apply to someone's day.
Mm-hmm. It's true. Addison is back there coughing. She doesn't mean to. She's got this gunk too, for the record. Dark Falls says its predictions were very interpretive, and I'm paraphrasing there. Absolutely. That's one of the things. It's like that's like when you take when the language began, when we began to write the English language. It's changed a lot. Things get interpreted over time. They change. You know what I'm saying? Like, go ahead. Mm-hmm. Megan's looking at me like she wants to say something. Have at it.
Well, I was going to say, even, this is more talking about experiences more so than predicting the future, but in a lot of biblical stories, some of the things can be interpreted weird because of the language barrier they had and, relating things to what they knew instead of what, we would understand them as.
Mm-hmm. Dark Falls just predicted our day tomorrow, and it's good. Tomorrow you wake up, do some stuff, and go back to sleep. I'm excited for tomorrow. I'm really excited. That sounds amazing. Neat day for Aries, guys.
Yeah. Little Orphan Annie was a great predictor with the sun'll come out tomorrow.
Oh, Lord. You went there, didn't you? Copyright infringement. Somebody call the cops. Somebody call the cops.
I just wanted to sing. It's been so long.
It has been a while. All right. Go ahead, Ryan.
So I hope that answers your question, Tay-Ray.
It could be Tare or Tay-Ra.
Tay-Ra.
Yeah, Tay-Ra. Hello, Tay-Ra. All right, that's getting ridiculous. All right, moving on. I've heard that if you wake up in the middle of the night for no reason, that it means someone is watching you. Do you think that's true? And should we be scared or comforted by it? That comes from Beth. Once again, everybody say, hey, Beth.
Hey, Beth.
Thank you for the question. We're trying to make this not awkward for you. But that's
it's not beef.
Is it beef? Have we been saying it wrong the whole time? I apologize. Dark Fowls and beef. I apologize to both of you.
I am just here to sabotage Megan for the rest of the show.
You always have.
I didn't even do that.
That's always been your thing with her, and I totally think it's great.
It's so easy to do. How can you resist?
It's true. Yeah. I said something the other night, and she believed it, and I was just like, I don't know how any 14-year-old even could ever think that I'm telling the truth.
I realize that I'm an easy target, but you guys could show a little self-restraint.
That would not be us at all. That's your reality. That's not ours. All right.
It's like if I gave you a button that says push and funny things will happen. Like, how
She-
could you not push it like all the time?
Okay, Beth, to get back to your question.
Beef. I think we
That's
decided
a really
it's beef.
cool idea. I've never thought about it, and I really like it, but it kind of scares me to my core.
I think that's the great question. I think is, does it mean something? Because I don't think Beth is beef. I'm sorry. I don't think I don't think she's heard the other shows yet. We talked before about, I have a friend who he would have like black shadows in his house, and they would like crawl up from the floor onto his bed, and and they were terrifying. Now, I think that those were scary, but I think maybe just being woke, just waking up and feeling like someone's watching you, or maybe that it just means that. I don't think that's a negative thing. I don't feel as though, because I've heard too many stories where when it's negative, you learn that, that. I feel like if it's an observation, it's probably someone who cares about you. That's just my take on it. I don't know if that's actually true. What do you think, Ryan?
Well, if I want to apply some science to it, maybe this will ease
Why?
someone's mind.
Yeah.
But maybe it's your primal mind sensing that danger.
Right.
Okay, well, maybe this isn't going to ease somebody's minds.
Mhm.
But maybe if there is something watching you, maybe you perceive that in some way, or you sense it. So your brain wakes you up to put you in a more alert state. Like
Sure.
this is your primal self-preservation.
You feel someone watching you when you're awake. You think someone's around the corner. You get that hunch. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they're a murderer. They're not going to murder their grandfather like Ryan's always trying to do. But it does potentially mean that someone's there. Maybe you're sensing something there. I think there's some merit to that. I always have. They call 3 o'clock the witching hour. I've always thought that it kind of felt creepiest around 2 to 4. I really did. I don't know why that is. I think my experiences have always kind of fell in there.
Yeah.
So
that's the best time
because
to play video games. If you're pulling an all-nighter, play your video games from 2 to 4.
It's true.
You won't be aware of as much.
That's true. Yeah. Keep yourself busy so you're not aware of it. All right. Go. Megan's looking something up, apparently.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Well, so we can move on questions?
No.
Okay. Well, what do you want me to do here?
Over the shoulder.
I have heard of a place that is not so far. I will sing that song that I didn't play on the show tonight.
I was just going to say it's creepy because the night is dark and full of terrors.
What did you have to look up for that?
I couldn't remember the quote. That's from Game of Thrones.
We waited for a Game of Thrones quote.
Yep.
That's your show and you couldn't remember without Google.
Nope.
This is her, folks. You can't write characters like this.
Oh,
That's
geez.
just her. Beth, that is a great question. It really is. We're going to do more ghost shows, and hopefully we can elaborate more and maybe, I don't know, maybe make you feel more understood, because I think this is kind of a personal question for her. I'm not going to say for sure, but I know that my experiences have kind of fallen in there, and I know that night that I woke up in Ryan's basement, and I don't want to sound like I was here and he dragged me there. I went there willingly, and I slept down there, and I woke up, and I felt like somebody was there. I did. It was one of the creepiest things I've ever felt in my life. I can't make
Did you feel
sense of
like
it.
somebody was watching you and you had no privacy?
Absolutely. And then I went to the bathroom and I found the camera. I knew that it was just Ryan all along. So that's all it was.
So he's locking you in his basement and he's filming you.
He's dragging me there, locking me.
Dragging.
Taking a shower.
I was. It's true. So, I do think there's something to it. Jokes aside, I really do. I think it can be a positive thing. Unless you really have negative experiences, I don't think it's negative. I believe if something negative is there, it's not going to wait to be negative.
I'm just going to say, if anybody feels like we're not taking their questions serious right now, I think you'll notice when people are starting to get creeped out, they tend to joke around a little more.
Sure, yeah.
So,
We try to lighten the mood. We're not scared of anything at all in the world, so we're just trying to...
Especially not spontaneous human combustion.
Especially not spontaneous human combustion.
which could happen at any moment.
Or aliens coming in and taking you. And yeah, we're not scared of anything, guys. We're just doing this for you. We're trying to knock the chill off. All right, so
The aliens can't come and get you if you're playing Rocket Knight Adventures on
it's
Sega
true.
Genesis.
That's absolutely the truth. That's proven. They tried this one guy. I believe his name was Adam Ellis. They tried. We're just
Hey,
abusing him.
Have you ever been taken by aliens while we were playing Rocket Knight Adventures?
Absolutely not. And you know why? It protected me, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
What is Rocket Knight Adventures? What?
That's the question you ask out of everything. That's what you're going to ask. All right, moving on. Where did you go? I was wondering if you would do another show. That wasn't the question, by the way. LOL. Should I have left? Do you think there are agencies that kill undesirables? And this comes from Avoid the Paranoid Noid.
Who?
That name was a mouthful. That's as long as the question itself. Do you think there are agencies that kill undesirables? I'm assuming you probably mean in America. And probably. Hoffa's still missing.
You can, I mean, JFK conspiracy theorists, Hoffman, some people say he was an undesirable, he was.
These are never. Yeah, think about it that, stuff happens to regular people, but then think about these larger people. Think about Marilyn Monroe and JFK.
Or even Princess Di.
There's, regular guys like you and I can't just get to these people. There's somebody out there who's on a larger scale that's doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It's really no question, I don't think. And I don't mean that as a jerk answer, because it's a fine question. It's just, I think the answer is absolutely.
I need to scratch my head, but I don't want to take my tinfoil hat off.
Right. Well, if you do, then you're going to let them into your thoughts, so don't do it. All right. Now, have you ever felt like someone you've met seemed out of place, like maybe they time traveled, or are an alien? This comes from Shanna, or Shauna.
Or Shayna.
Or Shanae. Apparently,
Shanae.
we can... This comes from a very nice person with a cool name. Now, what do you think? Have you ever met anybody that just seemed... Now, I don't mean one of those you meet at a convention and they're like, that dude ain't from this universe. I mean, like, really, they seemed off. Like, something seemed just weird.
Absolutely, I have.
Okay, I want to hear about that. Tell us about it.
I was in a gas station, and I noticed this older guy kind of, something was kind of weird about him. He was just kind of putting off this weird vibe. I don't mean like, oh, that's a weird old guy vibe, but I mean like, there's something off about this.
Yeah.
And he's like looking at the chips and snacks and stuff, and he is moving around like overly animated for his age, for one thing, and just in really awkward positions. Like, to look at something on the lower shelf, like he would like quickly lower himself just by like bending his knees.
That's weird, like, all on its own.
Like not like bending over like you normally would.
Yeah.
And he just left his arms dangling.
Huh.
I can picture Napoleon Dynamite doing that one day.
Yeah, for real. That's who I was thinking of.
So
God.
to look over at the other snacks, he didn't turn his head. He like shifted like a kind of weird.
It's because Kip ate all the chips.
Like a crab walk kind of to change positions. Yeah. So I'm like, what is this guy doing? And I kind of hung around just to look at him and
observe.
He was totally putting off the vibe. Like, this is something else in a disguise.
That happens.
Like, what was it, Dave? Is that the movie?
What?
Where
Paul?
No, the one where it's, who is it, Eddie Murphy, that's being controlled by a bunch of little Eddie Murphys in his head.
Oh, I haven't seen that actually, but yeah, I think it's Dave. What?
But
I feel completely off now because of that.
Anyway,
exactly.
This was a lot creepier in person.
Yeah, well, it sounds terrifying, dude. I'm not kidding. Like, that's kind of freaking me out a little bit. I like it, but
something's off about this. I don't know. Like, he seemed more like either you're some kind of creature wearing human skin, or something is controlling your mind.
He's a reptilian who was wanting some corn chips.
Could be.
But Oh, Beth, I'm sorry. I missed her comment on the last question. She said the Illuminati. Absolutely. The Illuminati is funny. It's a joke on the internet, but it's real. It's real. The presidents are all part of a sinister cult.
You know what's funny?
You ever heard that? You guys ever heard that? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ryan. I'm sorry.
Did the Illuminati plant that meme? Did they make it a joke?
They did so we wouldn't be afraid of the Illuminati.
Somehow, sometimes the easiest place to hide is right out in the open.
It's true. I wish I had my dun dun dun. I never heard my sound effects.
Bum bum bum.
I sounded more like Green Giant. Maybe it's just me. Green Giant. I don't know, man. I've noticed people who felt off just being around them. Like when you go to town, sometimes you can tell when somebody's like doped out or they're tired, they're funny, they're whatever. But then there's just this really weird feeling like that person's something's wrong, and I don't mean like mentally or even I don't know chemically. I guess
it's even beyond that. Like
you can't describe it.
You can tell if somebody has like a disability or something, but sometimes something goes a little beyond that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's hard to explain.
It's like when we talked about how ghosts scare you on a level that you can't prove or describe exactly. It's deep within your soul, which you can't describe anyway. That's how they make you feel. They scare your soul.
And I think it's
and you don't know why.
It's the uncanny valley coming up.
I think
it's your primal mind kind of warning you of dangers. Like something is off about this situation.
Absolutely.
You can't really whatever this isn't registering as a human to my senses.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. Absolutely. It's just hard to describe. So, yes, we absolutely think so. I don't know about if they've time traveled or they're an alien or they're sinister, as Dark Falls mentioned. I have no idea, but there are people out there that just defy all, it seems like. Just being around them, there's this, you have an aura, and then there's something just different about theirs that you just don't recognize. As Ryan said, Uncanny Valley really kind of kicks in. It's bizarre. All right, last question. This one comes from my little one, and she fell asleep before she got an answer. Can you switch bodies? Do you think anyone ever has? She has been obsessed since birth about people switching bodies. She has tried to build how many switch body machines?
1 million.
1 million. She would grab a bucket and a toy hammer and ponies and try everything.
She loves Freaky Friday movies, stuff like along those lines. It's really funny that she asks this question tonight because on the way home I was thinking about a case when you guys were talking about time travel, but it's not quite time travel. It's more like reincarnation, which is not switching bodies, but kind of is at the same time. Because the story specifically I was thinking about, a child led his village to the place where somebody was murdered and said that it was him. Like he led people to his own remains from his past life and said, I know who did this to me. And this kid was 8 years old and the murder happened about 9 years ago. So stuff like that really kind of wigs me out. Like, how would this kid ever know?
Absolutely.
And then a lot of times they'll have a birthmark, say this is gruesome, but they were shot in the head. They'd have a birthmark on their forehead or something crazy like that would line up their story a little bit.
You never know. On that one, that's one of those. Yeah, I don't have any science for that at all, but that's a good story. It's a great contribution to it. I don't know. Ryan, go ahead.
Our physical bodies, in a lot of paranormal cases, end up being just like a vessel. Think about possessions.
Absolutely, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Something, if you believe in possessions, then you believe that something else can occupy our space.
Mm-hmm.
So who's to say that your spirit or whatever could be removed and then replaced with someone else as the driver?
It's a scary thought, is it not?
Yeah.
And then they Inspector Gadget and self-destruct. They combust. That's how it all happens.
Don't say they combust.
I had to. All right, so these were actually some of my favorite questions so far from you guys. Thank you all for writing in. We've still got plenty of others to go through. Now where we've had this hiatus, there's lots more to go through. Let's take a music break. You want to? Because I really need a bathroom break here at the end of the show before we wrap up. So everybody
Yeah,
cool
that sounds
for
good.
all right, let's take a quick music break. This is by a band called We Were Cheerleaders. The song is called Alchemy, and I just think it's kind of cool, and it's long enough that number 1 or number 2, potentially, you'll have a minute. 6 minutes long. So let's take a quick break, and we will be right back.
You're a wild lifetime fire, trying to stand against your sailor. You've gone into water. This ain't the wild into fever. The ghost to shake the shade.
that was We Were Cheerleaders, Alchemy. I think that's just a really righteous little song. It's
Totally cool.
Yeah,
Good.
kind of reminds me of Clutch, if any of you guys have ever listened to Clutch at all. All right, well, probably not, but it's, awesome. Yeah, thank you guys so much for showing up tonight. And those of you, again, who don't chat with us or register, it's fine. We're just glad to have you. We're so glad to be back at it. We missed it. We missed you guys. It's just, it's a blessing. Depending on your faith, whatever. We're lucky to be doing it. And you guys are so awesome. I know Ryan feels that way too. We talk about it all the time. It's just a lot of fun. And we hope we don't ramble too much and make it sound stupid because we really take this stuff seriously.
Sorry, guys. I know I make it sound stupid.
No. She's the scientist of us, and Ryan and I are the jokesters. But no, seriously, we just really like it, and we like to talk to you guys about it because, let's learn something together. Let's be hungry for knowledge. Let's keep our eyes to the skies, as Ryan likes to say.
Yeah.
Our skeptical eyes to the skies, even these days. We learned on the top of the show. So
Watch
yeah,
out for those drones.
yes, those drones will get you. So I guess that's another show.
No.
Yeah, I know. I'm already sad that it's over, but I really enjoyed it. I actually really did. I had a lot of fun. Now, I've not been feeling great, and Ryan either, and it's been kind of a struggle trying to do some of the last few. They didn't go exactly as we'd hoped, and October got tanked altogether. But we're gonna make up the Ghostbusters show. We're gonna make up the vampire show. Next week we were talking about. Now, I'm curious what you guys would think if you would be interested in. Now, Dark Falls has mentioned it before. Bathory, the serial killer, and we were thinking maybe Jonestown Massacre, the where they drank the Kool-Aid. Unfortunately, the cult. I guess there's a movie about it called Sacrament. I don't know if any of you guys have seen it, but it's really good. And we talked about maybe doing that, but there's other things on the agenda like Ghostbusters and vampires. I guess time will tell. Keep one eye to the telescope and the other to the microscope. That's a very smart way to put it.
I like that.
Yeah. Yes, I like that. And then one to the super scope because you got to play video games.
Whoa.
At the same time, though, that kind of hurts my head.
It does. Oh, God. Isn't that a horrible thought?
Just close one eye at a time.
Yeah. Left camera, right camera. Camera 1, camera 2.
There you go.
There it is. Wayne's World. Camera 1, camera 2. Camera 1, camera 2. So we got a Wayne's
Flavor
World
Raid.
reference. It was Flavor Aid. It's been fun, guys. I won't keep you by being crazy, but only one at a time. There you go. All right, so the usual. I'll wrap it up. That's my daughter's word, the usual. I don't use it, but she does. You can get us on Twitter at The Spook House, Facebook, The Midnight Spook House, all one word, and of course our website, midnightspookhouse.com. And there you can send us feedback on if you think the show sucks. I hope you don't, but if you do, let us know. Be nice, be constructive. We'll learn from it. And ask us
to not suck. So let
exactly.
us know.
You can send us your stories if you have a story that you think's interesting. Maybe you can come on and talk to us. If not, I'll read your stuff, or Ryan will read it, or Megan will read it.
You should request that I read it.
Well, Ryan's still not convinced you can, but once you prove you can. But
I got your back, Tay Ray.
Tay Ray, see, she's got your back. So, thanks everybody. It's been fun talking to you again, Dark Fowls and Beef. We appreciate you being in chat with us. And next show, you guys should hang out because they're awesome. And I try to mention your messages as often as I can. Sometimes much later than the topic, but I try to fit it all in. But yeah, so if you guys want to go ahead and say your good nights, I'm sorry the show's over, but we're back at it, and next Friday we'll be here. We'll see about Tuesday. Ryan and I are talking about moving some things around to make it easier to prepare material for the other shows. Because as fun, as rad, and as easy as rad is, the horror show's been more of a struggle because it seems like everybody's doing it, and we're trying to be different. It's really difficult, it is.
You couple of hipsters.
We're trying to be hipsters before hipsters were ever hipsters.
There will be a lot more shows in the summertime. They helping kids with their homework.
There's like a lot of homework these days. It's outstanding that they. That's not a good word for that. I mean, it makes sense, but it's just not the right word. It's ridiculous It's a lot of cuss words is what it is. but yeah, we'll be doing more shows. The schedule will get more wide open, and during maybe spring break, for example, and then the summertime. But we're going to probably still do Rad. We'll see. We'll talk to you guys. We'll let you know. Astounding. The maturity never stops around here at the Spook House.
We take ourselves totally seriously.
We do. We're very serious about our craft.
Super
All right,
serial, guys.
I'm getting thrown off by you. So you just say your good nights and let's end this thing before we end up somewhere crazy.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Guys, thanks to listening. Thank you.
Ryan.
All right.
you're doing the Megan thing. What's going on with you over there? You're making this harder than it has to be. I thought we needed some drama there. I did that actually for effect, but now I'll turn it down so you can talk.
I'm good. Thanks for listening, guys, and I hope you have a great weekend.
Yeah, we really do. We hope you guys have an awesome weekend. I can't believe it's already Saturday. I don't know how it's Saturday, but it's Saturday. So have fun, be safe, learn something about the paranormal, and talk to us about it next week. For us, good night, folks.